Hi, it's Jeff.
And Denise from Mousesteps.com.
And this is episode number 350
350
of Mousesteps Weekly.
Sponsored by MEI Travel and Mouse Fan Travel. It's hard to believe, but Universal Studios is planning to start opening on June 1st.
And Legoland, too.
And Legoland, yes. Legoland actually is opening to the public on June 1st. Well, Universal will go into it a little slower, opening June 5th. And we'll find out next week on the date for Walt Disney World. That doesn't mean, you may not be traveling yet. You might be waiting till fall or next year. But MEI and Mouse Fan Travel can help you whenever you need guidance in the process for booking. And, if anything does come up, we just don't know what's going to happen, with travel in the future. But Florida, we're opening up here.
And speaking of opening up, it feels like weeks ago, but just 2 days ago, we were at Disney Springs, which reopened on that day, on the 20th.
Yeah, I mean, it feels really like at least a week ago, but we were there Wednesday, and now it's Friday. Days don't have the meaning they once did, at least at the moment still. But here we are in the garage. They were doing the temperature check for Disney Springs. We were there for 2 hours.
First thing, we were actually there before it opened. Very efficient and painless this check is.
I don't like it. I've mentioned before when we showed the Shanghai floor markings, I don't like things that say don't stand here, because then it's like, where am I supposed to stand? And I feel like there's been already a lot of issues with that.
And you can see it was a beautiful morning here, not overly crowded. Again, this was right around 10 o'clock at the opening time. We're going down the escalator.
And we were actually not planning to be here for opening. We didn't know what time, until this day or in the 24 hours preceding it, we didn't even know what time Disney Springs was going to open. Also, just not knowing when the temperature checks and stuff would start.
And it was in this area that we ran into Josh tomorrow, which we're looking at his corporate picture here, and I was able to congratulate him on his promotion.
Yeah, I mean, he's the chairman of Disney Parks, Experiences, and Products now. And he was barely here, and he was at Disneyland before, and I think he wasn't there very long either. He keeps moving up really quickly.
So now we're going to take a look at a lot of the markers they have for social distancing purposes. This is outside of Chicken Guy.
And Chicken Guy hadn't been open yet when we passed there. We were originally planning to go a little bit later because I thought it would be less crowded later, but then we saw that it opened at like 8:30 a.m., so we're like, okay, we'll get ready and head over. And maybe it'll be a little less busy. It was actually busier than I expected. I know it doesn't look it from walking here, but it certainly was more brisk than I expected for first day. No tourists. And certain areas were a little more congested. The marketplace, surprisingly, even though a lot of it wasn't, that area was not that much open.
And this is very exciting. Denise is demonstrating how to wash your hands here with this portable sink they have out there.
I actually just wanted to wash my hands. I was like, you might as well just get this. But I don't like the portable ones so much. I wish that they would add some, permanent sinks, because I think it's always a good idea to have more sinks than less sinks.
Well, it's a start, It's probably difficult with plumbing and everything to have sinks in the middle of Disney Springs.
Yeah, but I mean, they've been closed a couple months. I think it would be nice if they were able to
You have the fountain.
I'm not washing my hands in the fountain. But they also have, there you are, hand sanitizers and such. But, not as many portable fountains as or portable wash areas as I thought there would be.
And when we arrived in the morning, the orange garage only was open, but as we were walking around, I saw that they were just opening the lime garage, and here we are.
And there are cast members here. They are here, to greet you, but also for social distance, and I think they're usually either recreation or children's activities, but they are here, making sure everybody stays a proper distance from each other.
I think they're encouraging the masks stay on as well.
Right, of course. And, during the day, it seems like the masks, they do pretty well with them, but I've heard towards the evening they've been having less mask wearing, so we'll see what happens.
So this will be in use this coming Wednesday when the World of Disney reopens and a number of other Disney-owned places.
And remember I said, here it says don't stand here, but I mean, you could stand to the side of it, you could stand to the back of it. Of course, you're supposed to stand to the back of it, but I think this is going to cause some issues.
You would prefer the opposite, where you do stand on the tiles.
Give me a circle to stand in. Say stand here, and I'm really good with that. But I think, once World of Disney opens, it'll be a little busier. You can see the marketplace, even with World of Disney.
Well, because of Starbucks,
Well,
they had a special welcome drink.
Yes, and in part that had something to do with it. But people tend to gravitate towards the marketplace, even though, again, not a lot open here. There was a few things open, but mostly not. And so it was just interesting to see how busy this area was.
Now, this Joffrey's was indeed opened, and I guess you had a special procedure for ordering. Lego was closed on the opening day, but we're taking a look around at the Lego Serpent here.
And it's really nice to be back, and I know the virus isn't gone, but it's nice to be outside. I'm not really doing inside stuff. We aren't dining inside or doing anything, even though that is available if that's something you want to do.
I felt pretty safe. I look forward to going back next week and getting some yummy pizza, and also to check out the opening of the Disney stores and places.
Well, after Memorial Day weekend, we'll get that. We're going to go to Pizza Ponte because I love Pizza Ponte, just
yes.
to take it to go and to have a nice walk around the Springs because it hasn't been, too busy yet.
And while we're looking at Legos, I know we referenced earlier that Legoland is opening on June 1st.
That's, that's crazy. And we might go. It depends if we're doing Universal that week, then, or a couple hours there. Probably, I don't want to do both in the same week, but we'll see what happens.
Right.
It's a lot. This was not expected, all of this opening.
Well, the surprise with Legoland is they are not requiring masks. They are encouraging it. They recommend it.
And they're giving out free masks.
Correct, which is very nice. And Universal also giving out free masks.
And Legoland's very different than some places in that you can really, it's almost never that busy, and you can kind of get away from everybody. So, I'll wear my mask and we can just walk to the Cypress Gardens area or whatever.
Right. It's, as you said, it's, I've never really during the week found it to be overly crowded. So it'll be hopefully a very relaxing and nice place to go to get out.
But while we're looking at Disney Springs, I just want to mention the first day between 40 and 50 locations had opened. Not really any Disney locations except, let's say, the Welcome Center, but other places, so many. Like when they first announced that Disney Springs would open in phases, they had like 3 locations: Wine Bar George, Yasaki, and like one other place. And it was like, oh well, it sounds like it's going to not be very many areas.
And here's a look at another entrance, the pedestrian entrance to Disney Springs.
And there's a tent there. So let's say you measure 100.5. You can sit in that tent if you want, though I would stay away from the tent.
Yes, I'd probably cool off elsewhere.
I'd rather just sit in the car for a little while. I'm not sitting next to other people with the temperature.
At least they do give you another chance, though.
Yes.
A separate, you can cool down.
Well, the thing is, and I was going to say Earl Sandwich was open that day. I know my temperature goes up and down during the day, so I can totally get, like I had 104 last week because of
you
the
would have
bad
been
antibiotic.
denied for sure then.
I probably would have been sent to the hospital.
That's true.
Because of my antibiotic, not giving me issues. So anyway, Once Upon a Toy was not open. Currently, it is not slated to open yet, but who knows? Disney could be like, okay, Once Upon a Toy time.
And you can see the train here. And before we showed the carousel and the rides, these 2 rides were not operating. I don't know. They probably will eventually soon enough.
I would think so. And the one good thing is the CDC said today, like surfaces are not quite as, it's mostly the respiratory, not the surfaces, although you want to still be careful of surfaces. But it's most transmissions aren't supposedly that way.
Every day we get new or different information, so I like to wait a few days.
It's good to learn.
No
It's good to learn things. While we're walking through here, when we were coming down the escalator, I touched the railing. I'm like, oh, maybe that wasn't a smart idea.
Yeah.
I'm just not used to being out with so many people now. I go to Publix when there's like 6 people shopping.
Yeah, I mean, on a normal day, this would be very uncrowded, but in this situation,
but here
it is crowded.
Right, I'm trying to get away from people now, and
Stitch is still spitting his water, it seems.
And we saw everybody we knew that
Yes,
day.
we sure did, and it was wonderful to see so many friends again. It was hard to recognize everyone right away with the masks, I've noticed.
I recognized almost everybody, but it was nice. it was nice to see everybody. And so there was the Mickey Fountain. That changed like a year ago or so, where it used to be a topiary, and now it isn't an official topiary.
Oh, and there is the welcome back drink. And we're not going to show this, but one thing that I found very interesting, you can see there's a line for T-Rex, was they were selling balloons later in the day.
Yeah, and I guess we'll see that probably when we go back. Somebody said it was a third party who sells them, which surprised me.
You can see the arrows here telling you which way to be, sort of like the rules of the road.
Yes, just to keep everybody a little distant. I mean, you can't do necessarily 6 feet here, but you're just walking past guests who are masked during the day outside, so I think it's pretty safe otherwise anyway. But here is Raglan Road, which is not open. Cooks of Dublin, not open.
Although I hear
know. Probably don't mention the hot dogs.
A place for some wieners.
Yeah, somebody brought it, I guess, a tabletop grill that day and cooked hot dogs. So
yes, no open flames at Disney Springs.
No,
we've learned.
But Cooks of Dublin, when I passed by it, I could see somebody inside. So maybe they're thinking about opening. Raglan Road's a different animal, though, because they have a lot of Irish people who work there.
And there is another hand sanitizer station. And now we're going to take a look at this bridge, a much more narrow bridge. I was very lucky, though, when I was doing the video, there was nobody coming on the other side. I was able to stop, and boy, what a beautiful day. The springs look so inviting. It was so nice to really, it was wonderful to be back there.
Now, Sprinkles wasn't open. I don't know that Frontera was open, and if it wasn't, then it was going to open the next day or two. We left by about noon.
We were home by noon. I think we
were home by
11:30.
noon. So we didn't see the lines for Chicken Guy and all. We did see the line for the Boathouse and for T-Rex. I was surprised Sprinkles wasn't open because I thought that they were open at other locations elsewhere.
That ATM would come in handy.
It wouldn't because you
have to touch it. That's right. I didn't think of that.
I'd probably rather go inside. Morimoto Asia opened today, as did Pizza Ponte. And then also the gelato was supposed to open today, but they didn't. So they should be open anytime.
And now we're going back over the bridge, and let's see, paddlefish.
Yes, and they were not open. So about 25% of the locations, because there's almost 200 locations at Disney Springs, so about 25% of them opening day. I think that's very successful, a lot more than I expected.
And I think one of the most popular establishments is straight ahead the Boathouse. They had quite the line as we walked by.
I'm not ready to dine inside. I think it's going to be a while until I feel things are totally safe, but it's very popular. We know a number of people quite a few people who went here opening day.
Yeah, the food is wonderful. It's one of my favorite places. I really wish they would do takeout. We can get a nice couple of helpings of your filet sliders to go. Oh boy, would that be good. We got to write to the
I'm
Boathouse.
Really hungry now.
See if they'll do some sliders to go.
The Boathouse, I guess if you have a reservation, you dine inside. If you don't, you dine out back, outside. Yeah. Inside, reservation, outside. No.
Walk-ups.
But I would want to sit outside.
And the amphicars were not running yet opening day. I think they're trying to figure out how to work that.
And I think that they probably will pretty soon.
Wine Bar George, another one of our favorites that hadn't opened yet, but we did see George. We were able to say hi to him. I don't know if he recognized us, but it was very nice to see him out and about.
And they hadn't opened for the day yet, but they were opening that day. Wine Bar George was one of the first 3 that said that they would be opening, and there are safety reminders everywhere.
Yeah.
That is something you see everywhere.
There's your little cameo.
Yes, me and my mask. And actually wearing the mask for me those 2 hours was easier than inside Publix, and I don't know why it is. There was a little breeze, and maybe that's why. But it was very warm out, but I thought it almost had a cooling effect.
It sort of had a cooling effect for me, too. I have a nice big size mask, and instead of the sun being in your face, the mask kind of helps keep the sun out of half of your face. So for me, it was okay.
I was fine. I'm not concerned about wearing a mask anywhere. I think it was, it's really good to do so to help not spread,
Absolutely.
To spread the COVID-19.
STK had a nice little line waiting for it to open.
And that was, I think, one of the 3 that were planning to open from the get-go. So when they said the 3, I'm like, okay, well, it won't be too busy. And it's like, Oh, good. You know, a lot of places. It's nice to see so much life at Disney Springs.
Here's a look at Characters in Flight, which actually reopened today. It was flying today, and some people we know were up in it.
I kind of want to go back up. We haven't been up there in a while.
It's been a while, absolutely.
And it would be nice to have those beautiful views.
So while we're looking at then Starbucks, this has also reopened. It was not open on this day.
It was not opening day, but it opened yesterday. So it was only closed like one day. So I might stop there also. There is no dining inside Starbucks.
And no trucks in Food Truck Park, so I guess you could just say it's park at the moment.
Yes, and Splitsville not open. I know we're talking about all the places that are open and not open. There isn't really much on the west side open.
Well, while we're looking at some of these not open places, let's quickly talk about Universal, because it was officially announced today that they will be opening on Friday, opening to the public on Friday the 5th of June. They'll be having cast member testing on the 1st and
the
2nd, and then 3rd and 4th, something is going to be announced for annual pass holders.
I know, you know what, it's crazy. I really thought it would be at least July before we saw everything opening, and it's, you know, I hope everything goes smoothly and safely. The M&M store here is being built. I stopped by. I think CityWorks. I think we'll see CityWorks open soon.
They were doing some work, though. They were doing some work in the pavement outside. I like this sign. This is great.
Oh yeah, this is my favorite sign of everything. Just saying, you may
The
have
House of
noticed.
Blues.
Yeah, you may have noticed some of our other neighborhood bands are back to rocking or still fine tuning, and I just thought that was
great.
a really great, and it really is on brand for them. And NBA experiences.
That's going to be a challenge, because
Yes.
when we had a chance to go through there and look at all the exhibits, almost everything involves touching. So I think that one will be a challenge to reopen.
And if it was Disney Quest, it would have been the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Cirque now.
Drawn to life. Who knows when that will, if and when that will come.
You know, I don't know if it will be if, but hopefully when. But that was, you know, it was supposed to start. It was ready to start, and then we saw a preview
this
of
happened.
it. Yeah, and then the parks in Disney Springs closed. So there is, we have House of the Blues on the left, and again, West Side pretty much empty. The Coke store not open yet. Planet Hollywood, yes. Planet Hollywood was about to open.
And the AMC, no word on that. I think that will be a bit of a time before that one reopens.
Yes, but I mean, if you can open dining, then I assume they'll at some point do theaters and such.
Oh, excitement
25%
beyond
or
belief.
so.
Hand washing demo.
Yes, very. You know what? It's good to the more. I haven't used a public restroom in over 2 months. That's going to change at some point. But I like to be able to use that open.
Well, especially if we're
Outdoors,
going
yes.
to Universal for a number of time, that will change for sure.
Well, we'll probably be there a few hours or something if we head over.
So now we're going to look at something a little different. This is our vintage segment. We're looking at Nara Dreamland, and this is a park in Japan. And there was a businessman who went and visited Disneyland in the 50s and loved what he saw, got in touch with Walt, and he asked if Walt could build a Disneyland in Japan. And Walt Disney said, no, we're not able to do that at this time. So he went and sent people to photograph Disneyland, and they built a sort of a tribute park to it.
It really was interesting to see this footage. And it has David Mumford, who was an Imagineer for almost 25 years. And, it's just very interesting to see him and Carole, who is his wife, really talking about everything and sharing so much about this park.
Well, we're going to show that. We're going to release that tomorrow, so you'll get to see more of their adventures. Carole, to this day, still does a lot of events for us. And again, David, he was sort of an Imagineer that really embraced the Disney fan community, maybe one of the firsts, him and Bruce Gordon. And they also both authored The Nickel Tour, which is one of the best Disneyland books ever made.
And it was funny seeing tomorrow, if you watch a video, it's about 14 minutes long. You see David going up to the firehouse, which is in exactly the same place as you'd expect a firehouse to be in a Disney park, and just talking about that. And I just thought that was really funny.
Well, this is really interesting. So this is the Bob Sleigh, which is really a takeoff of the Matterhorn. When this was being designed, the actual Disneyland Matterhorn hadn't opened yet. So it's thought that they were designing this after coming attraction posters that were around Disneyland at the time that they were over there photographing it. So it's not quite the same. There's only one track. You enter the mountain and go up inside the mountain, but once you come out, you never go through the mountain in and out like you do at Disneyland. And my friend who has ridden this says it's a very rough ride, much rougher than the Disneyland Matterhorn. And as you know, anybody who has ridden that is a rough ride.
Yes, I don't ride it very often anymore. There's attractions that were here, and it's been closed for many years, demolished at this point. But there's some attractions that look and seem very similar to what you'd expected at Disneyland. And then there's others that are totally more like what you would think of as maybe you'd find at Knott's.
Right. I mean, there's a jungle cruise, there is a monorail, there's a skyway, and the skyway actually goes right through the bobsleigh mountain, Matterhorn Mountain, and we're going to show a little of that after the ride here is done. This ride actually has a splashdown in the water, although the water part was turned off because of rust problems they have there.
And they had the Speedway.
Yes. Oh, yeah. An Autopia.
And it looks similar.
So many things that we have a bunch of videos coming up if you're interested in this kind of thing, this tribute park.
But the firehouse had like a lawnmower in it or something.
And there is David Mumford right there. And we're about to get off the ride, and I think we're about to go through the mountain. Now, there was, if you noticed, there was no Yeti in this mountain because even at Disneyland, the Yeti didn't appear until 1978. So when this was designed, of course, there was nothing like that. This was great. Now, I have ridden this at Disneyland many times, the Skyway where you're able to go right through the mountain. You never did have that opportunity.
No, I haven't done that.
So, I mean, obviously the Disneyland version was much more detailed, but you still have an idea. It has the snow, a little bit of the snow effect going on here. And you can see the Skyway is a little different. It's enclosed with plexiglass, unlike Disneyland and nice, comfortable California where it's open air.
Well, when I saw that the first time, I didn't see it go through, and I'm like, why are we going into like a maintenance area? Like, that's what it looks like. But it's very interesting to see, again, a park that in some areas is very similar to Disneyland, and then again in other areas not so much.
And by the way, the reason David was even there is he was working at Tokyo Disney Sea on the Mermaid Lagoon project. So, this is something he always wanted to do, is see Nara Dreamland. It was well known. I knew about this back in the 90s, and boy, I wish I had gotten. I am so jealous of all my friends who have been to this park because it looks great. We'll have a lot more coming up in future vintage segments. Look at this. There's the back of the castle.
Isn't there teacups also?
Yeah, there's teacups. There's so many things. It's amazing.
And I just also want to say, part of the reason there is no more Nara Dreamland is because of Tokyo Disneyland and Tokyo Disney Sea. So at least he got to go. He passed away a few years later of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I remember that because a friend of mine at that time was just finding out she had it as well, and she also passed away a little bit later. So. But it's really nice to be able to see. It's like home movies of this fantastic trip.
Tomorrow at 4:00, the very first, the second we've already put up the bobsleigh, but the first of the tour of Nara Dreamland will go up, and then we'll continue afterwards.
Right. There's plenty more, plus a lot more vintage Disney coming.
Full monorail ride, full jungle
from
cruise.
The Nara, yes,
from
Nara.
Nara. Just unbelievable stuff.
So, we really appreciate being able to put that up. And our thanks to our sponsor, MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. The parks are opening. I don't know what to say. I think I'm still a little bit in shock.
I am in shock too. And by the time of next week's show, we'll know when Walt Disney World will be opening, at least the theme parks probably, or at least a plan to open the theme parks.
Right. And I think, safety first. We don't want to, I don't know that we want everything open, but boy, everything is opening. So,
well, there's one thing that I like to say. We are in charge of our own safety. If we go somewhere, if we go to a park and it doesn't look like we're comfortable, we don't feel safe, we can just turn around, get in the car, and go home. So it's not that bad. It's not a big deal for us. But if you're traveling, if you're making it a big deal, if you don't already have tickets, I think it's much more important to know what you're getting into. So we'll try to cover all of this as best we can.
Right. And, again, that's something about having a travel agent like MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. They've been doing this for over 20 years. So, they can guide you through not only the booking process, but also if there are any hiccups and, helping you to rebook. I think that's, really important right now.
So
and,
many surprises.
And advisories
Yeah.
and such.
Well, just with the UK now, if you travel going from the United Kingdom, when you return, you have to have a 14-day quarantine, at least for the time being.
Yeah, and I mean,
starting in June, I think.
That could change for fall. We just don't know. But I know MEI and Mouse Fan Travel, they're especially looking towards fall travel and later at this point. And if summer travel is able to happen, that's great too. I don't know what's going to happen. I feel like it's been a lot faster than I expected here. I'm excited to be able to get out, but it's sort of like we go out for a few hours and then I'm like, okay, shelter in place again, for the time being, just to kind of watch what happens.
Well, I'm very glad, actually, if it works out that we can start with Legoland and then go to Universal and then graduate up to going to Disney. I think that'll be nice. I mean, we've already gone through Disney Springs. We'll probably see City Walk at some point soon. So it's good practice, but safety first. Right.
We're just trying to be as safe as possible. The longer we can be safe, the better. We'll have treatments out there, and I don't like to talk about, COVID-19, but it's still there, and we're learning to coexist with it as best we can, but still spending a lot of time. I don't want to say I mean, I walk
We're out every day.
Yeah, I walk 10 to 15,000 steps a day. I am busy and all that, but I like that I can do it at Disney Springs now. I like to be able to pick up some food, and I'm looking forward to that.
So thanks again for listening. Have a great week. We'll see you all next week, and be safe.
Yes, be safe and healthy.